Today we're looking at speech and communication disorders, defined by a speech or language impairment, for which is a communication disorder such as stuttering, impaired articulation, a language impairment, or a voice impairment that adversely affects a child's educational performance. Many disorders affect our speech and communication. They range from saying sounds incorrectly to being completely unable to speak or understand speech. These include hearing disorders and deafness, voice problems, speech problems such as stuttering, developmental disabilities, learning disorders, autism, a brain injury, stroke. Some speech and communication issues can be genetic, although often no one knows the causes. By first grade, about 5% of children have noticeable speech disorders, and the speech and language therapy can help. As far as terms to know, articulation are speech impairments where a child produces sounds incorrectly. This could be a lisp or a difficulty in articulating certain sounds. Fluency is speech impairments where a child's flow of speech is disrupted by sounds, syllables, and words that are repeated, prolonged, or avoided, where they may be silent blocks of inappropriate inhalation, exhalation, or strange patterns in the speech. A voice is defined as speech impairments where the child's voice has abnormal quality to its pitch, resonance, or loudness. And language is defined as language impairments where the child has problems expressing needs, ideas, or information and or understanding what others say. All right, as far as tips in the physical education classroom, oftentimes these speech and language communication issues don't affect the physical output, so we might not think it's that important that we reinforce, but it really is a great opportunity. The best thing we can do is get with the speech and language pathologist, get with the classroom teacher and the speech teacher and everyone else involved and just say, well, what are you all doing to communicate with this child, and how are they communicating with you, and how can I reinforce this? Speech and language impairments they're very different for one person and the next. Really, the speech and language pathologists nowadays, they don't spend nearly as much time trying to teach somebody how to teach as they do just helping them communicate, which might mean a device such as PEX cards, which are like picture cards, or it could be a computer program, or it could be like on an iPad. There's applications on those. A lot of it's helping the people, how can they communicate? There's a lot of individuals out there that can communicate. They can think what they want to say, they just can't get their mouth and their system to say it. So how can they communicate what they want to say? You definitely need to read the IEP if you're not a part of the IEP team. Read the IEP, find out what the accommodations are, and consult with the others, the speech and language pathologists, the special education teachers, and find out what are they doing in the classroom so that you can use the same system in your room, your classroom, which is the gym. When I was at Fort Sanders, we used the PEX cards all the time. They were the printout pictures. Now, some of them had pictures which were an actual photograph. Some of them had pictures which are representative. We used software called Boardmaker, and what I found is I just took pictures of everything, so I would say it and I would have a picture of it. As we went through the schedule, or they wanted to choose, some kids could verbalize what they wanted to choose, other kids would point to the picture of what they wanted to choose, but ultimately they still were empowered and got to make the decision. When the student was empowered, I had fewer behavior problems, and it taught the students, that if somebody felt like they didn't get what they wanted, they might have some behavior issues, and so those would be avoided because the student, was able to verbalize, was able to communicate what they wanted. You need to find out what resources are available in Knox County. We have a department that most people don't know about. It's the Assistive Technology Department, but I forgot the name of them. And I would say most teachers don't know they exist. Assistive technology, it's their job to help people get the resources they need to learn. So if a student, is able to communicate and they can't verbalize what they want to say, they find what the child needs to be able to in that least restrictive environment so they can best learn. And what has worked for me? Communication. Communication special ed teacher, communication with a speech and language pathologist, and none of them expect you to be an expert. Just the fact that you're reaching out and say, hey, I want to do better, they are absolutely thrilled. They don't expect you to know anything. They don't expect you to really have an in-depth understanding of of how these systems work or what the child's disability is. They just want to help. And so then they will teach you what you need to know, and no one's ever going to complain about that. No good teacher, definitely. And then once I've done that, I mentioned the PEX cards on BoardMaker, those little picture cards. The BoardMaker's about $300, or it was a few years ago when our school was buying it. I don't know if it's still the same price, but as I said, I just took pictures of things. Laminated these little cards. Actually, lamination's not best. Some students have a problem with the glare on the lamination, so we actually started using contact paper, which is peel it off, put the picture in, then you push it back on, and it doesn't have a glare. And it takes about as long as the lamination. Didn't really cost more time, and I don't really know about the cost. I wasn't paying for anything when the special ed all paid for it in the special ed department. But those seem to work real easily and work real well. And that was what worked best for me, is those little picture cards. But of course, only on the students that needed it. Some of the students we had, they just needed more practice saying stuff. So we were encouraged to make them say it. So they could point at it and then say, okay, what do you want? Hold it, and it might show a picture of basketball, a picture of a kicking ball, a soccer ball or something, and they would have to say, I want soccer, or I want basketball. And the fact they were verbalizing it was a big deal. And even if they only gave you one word or 1.5 words, it was better than them saying nothing at all. They needed a safe place to practice talking. Well, this one was a little shorter than most, and I guess because it doesn't affect the movement as much as the others, but does not mean that we can't help out with their IEP goals.